Welcome back to my Disney vs. series. This video was suggested by my viewer King. Usually I only do rides that I've physically been on, then compare them to see which one is better. This time I'm gonna need your help for that. Today we'll look at all 4 attractions that was once housed in Stitch's Great Escape, which was the only one of the 4 rides I could give an opinion on. We'll also look at Flight to the Moon, Mission to Mars, and Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter. So let's start where we usually do, Magic Kingdom's opening year. Opening Christmas Eve in 1971, this attraction missed the park's opening day by almost 3 months. This ride was nearly identical to its Disneyland counterpart. Guests would enter a pre-show after a brief introduction in a holding area. Here you would meet Mr. Tom Morrow as he greets the riders and introduces them to Mission Control. If that name sounds familiar, it should. The ride audio from the People Mover has the callback to this ride and character. As they say, paging Mr. Tom Morrow, please contact Mr. Johnson in the control tower to confirm your flight to the moon. After Mr. Morrow was done with his explanation, guests would then file into a room that should be familiar for anyone who's experienced at least one of these 4 rides. A 360 theater with stadium seating with the usual motion simulation for different parts of this attraction. The ride would obviously fly you over the surface of the moon that you could view from a screen that was supposed to be the bottom of the ship. You would also view the sun before being stuck in a meteor shower. Your seats would shake and sirens would sound before you make it back to Earth safely. People would soon grow tired of this attraction since we already reached the moon in real life just a few years prior. Guests wanted a new frontier to conquer, and just 4 years, Flight to the Moon would close in favor of a new planet. June 7th, 1975. Mission to Mars would get its crack in making the show building successful. Only being closed for less than 2 months, a lot of the same elements from Flight to the Moon would remain the same. Guests would enter the pre-show mission control area, but trading in Mr. Morrow for Mr. Johnson was the biggest change for this scene. Once the ride proper started, it was pretty much the same thing, just with the Mars overlay. They did add seat cushions that looked solid but would fill up with air to simulate G-forces. The script was different, but the effects stayed largely the same, even down to being stuck in the meteor shower for the attraction's climax. As the decades went on, this attraction started to show its age. The problem with everything future-themed is that you need to constantly evolve to stay relevant. Once the 90s hit, Disney wanted something with more of an adult theme, and on October 4th, 1993, no more trips to the moon or Mars would be had here. Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter was the idea that Disney had at trying to make the show building relevant. Using director Ridley Scott's movie Alien, this attraction was a huge departure from anything seen in the Disney parks. Focusing purely on horror, this was a polarizing attraction to say the least. Having test audience try out this ride starting on December 16, 1994, Disney President Michael Eisner himself said the ride wasn't intense enough. After spending another $10 million in upgrades, this attraction would open fully on June 20th, 1995. Instead of a holding area, a second pre-show was added. Guests would watch a short movie that included a callback to Mission to Mars, making it seem like an upcoming documentary called Fact or Hoax, as well as a fictional commercial for Lunar Disney being the happiest place off Earth, before finally setting the tone meeting Elsie Clench from a mysterious corporation, XS Tech. The second pre-show guests were greeted by a robot named Simulated Intelligence Robotics, nicknamed Sir, who was voiced by Tim Curry. He tried to show off XX Tech's superior technology by teleporting a cute alien named Skippy across the room. Unfortunately for Skippy, he'd end up badly burned in the process. Sir tried to play off the snafu by saying you could use this to suspend people in teleportation indefinitely. Finally, you were ready for the main event. Guests would be seated in the familiar circular room, this time with a giant tube in the middle. The original plan was to teleport one of the people from the audience to space to meet Clench. Instead, Clench changed his mind and wanted to come to Earth to meet every one of you in person. With the sudden change in plans, a teleportation signal was sent to an unknown planet, sending an alien in its place. The creature escaped and quickly dispatched of a maintenance worker who tried to wrangle it, spraying the audience with his fluid in the process. You would then feel your seat rumble as the alien ran rapid in the crowd. He would then make his way to your shoulders, breathing acid in your face and drooling on your neck. This all happened in total darkness as screams filled the room. Finally, 2 assistants were able to pull the alien back into his tube. Once he was forced back into the tube, he exploded from the faulty teleportation device. Your nightmare came to an end and everyone would file into the scariest place of all, the Merchant of Venus gift shop. As the years went on, complaints of this attraction being too scary and violent piled up. The main point was the treatment of poor Skippy being burnt to a crisp. These complaints weren't new, however. This was known throughout Disney management since its debut. Finally, after about an 8-year battle, the Moms won, closing this ride for good on October 12, 2003. So far, the show building was being over 3 and trying to make this a lasting attraction. So what IP would be next for Disney in attempts to make this area a draw? November 16th, 2004. Disney's fourth and as of now final attempt at greatness was using 2002's box office success Lilo and Stitch. On its opening day, the park went all out for its promotion. They covered the castle in toilet paper as well as fake graffiti to make it look like Stitch had run amok. The stunt didn't quite hit the mark as reception was overwhelmingly neutral. But how did the ride fare? The first pre-show had an animated movie where you're introduced to the Grand Council woman. She basically deputized the riders as guards for the United Galactic Federation. The next room had you meet a robot named Sergeant C4703BK2704-90210. You would then meet a familiar face, Skippy, who would return in his normal and burnt form. 90210 demonstrates how to use the tubes from the previous attraction. Right before you enter the circular room, you hear over the loudspeaker that they have a level 3 prisoner. The main show remains largely the same with just new twists on the original effects. The prisoner turned out to be Stitch and his inevitable escape. Instead of getting sprayed with an innocent man's innards, Stitch spits water in your face. Instead of lurking behind you menacingly, Stitch tickles your head and playfully bounces on your shoulders. And replacing the acid breath is Stitch burping up a chili dog that he steals from a fake audience member. The best effect by far is when the cannons come online in order to stop Stitch's madness. They misfire, making the lights go out a second time, and Stitch is able to escape through the tube as he wreaks havoc all over the Magic Kingdom, which is kind of the prequel to how Cinderella's castle got TP'd. The reception for this ride varied from indifferent to people thinking this was the worst ride Disney ever made. They had to sit in their many mistakes with this building, and October 1st, 2016, they announced this ride would only be seasonal to help with capacity with larger crowds. The ride was last operational on January 6, 2018, the speculation being it was just a temporary close. But on July 16, 2020, it was announced that Stitch would be closed for good, making the show building go over 4 and trying to make this a lasting attraction. So normally I end things with giving my opinion on each attraction and give you a winner. But as I stated before, my usual videos are grading rides I've only physically been on. I may have been on Mission to Mars when I was younger, but I can't give you a single memory that I have from it. As for Alien Encounter, I was too afraid to go on it, so that one is also a no-go. I could say Stitch wasn't terrible, but I can't say in good faith that it was a good ride. It was mostly just a whole lot of standing for the pre-shows as well as being abused by your shoulder restraints. So I'll leave this one up to you guys. Let me know which one of the 4 won it for you. Let me know if you have any lasting memories from any one of these rides. But we'll wrap things up here, so drop a like if you enjoyed this, subscribe if I earned it, and thank you for watching.